Alright, fellas, this one's a bit of a spicy topic. A few days ago, a tweet started making the rounds. It was posted by a fellow YouTuber, Showbiz the Adult. If you're tapped into the boxing side of YouTube, you've probably come across him before. Now, in the tweet, and later in a full video, he floated a pretty bold idea. He said there should be a no running rule in boxing. Basically, he's suggesting it should be enforced just like the no excessive clinching rule, with warnings and potential point deductions. Now listen, I get where he's coming from. The fights we saw recently? Abysmal. Fans were let down, and for those who paid for it, yeah, it felt like a bit of a slap in the face. But here's the thing. While I agree the lack of engagement is a real issue, trying to fix it with a vague no running rule? That's dangerous ground, especially in a sport like boxing, where the officiating and judging are already inconsistent enough to drive fans insane. Look, no one wants to see fighters dancing around the ring for 12 rounds, refusing to engage. It kills the energy, the suspense, the whole point of the sport. And this past weekend really drove that home. CompuBox, which has been tracking boxing stats for 40 years, recorded some of the lowest punch counts in its entire history. In one weekend. 2 fights, both hyped to the moon, set new lows and not in a good way. So yeah, the frustration, it's justified. But here's the problem. This wasn't about fighters running in the literal sense. This was the result of some awful style matchups, fighters known for slick, evasive styles going up against opponents who either couldn't or wouldn't cut off the ring. Add in the fact that both stars likely knew they had massive paydays lined up regardless of how this one went, and you've got the perfect storm of low-risk, low-output boxing. Take Canelo and Haney. Why would they risk getting clipped when they knew coasting would win them rounds? Why turn up the heat when the judges are already leaning your way? From their perspective, it was just smart business. But don't get it twisted. This is still a problem. Fighters avoiding engagement, backing up all night, throwing just enough. To stay ahead on the cards, that's not what fans pay for. It's not what boxing should be. But the solution isn't to throw in a rule that's nearly impossible to define, because that's the heart of it. How do you define running in boxing? What's the line between smart movement and avoidance? Are you basing it on punch volume, crowd booing, vibe? It's a mess. And remember, this isn't some utopian version of the sport where everything is fair and transparent. This is boxing, the land of controversial scorecards and shady decisions. Give refs the ability to penalize what they think is running, and you've just handed them another tool to favor one fighter over another. I respect Showbiz for sparking the conversation. The dude's a legend in the scene, no doubt, and it's a convo worth having. But his idea rests on this perfect world assumption where refs use the rule fairly, consistently, and without bias. And yeah, that's just not realistic. You can't build a rule around vibes and hope refs interpret it right. If you want to see what happens when combat sports try to force engagement, look no further than Muay Thai. One championship stepped in and said, "This traditional stuff is too slow. Too boring," so they threw in knockout bonuses, redefined inactivity, and encouraged all-out brawls. And you know what happened? They changed Muay Thai at the highest level forever. Fighters chasing KO bonuses. Technical pacing went out the window. Entire styles started dying off. That's the risk of pushing a one-size-fits-all engagement rule. You lose the diversity of the sport. So no, I don't think we need another rule, especially one this open to abuse. But that doesn't mean we sit on our hands. There is something that can be done. And it's already within boxing's existing rules. Let's talk about the ring size. Yeah, believe it or not, there's no standardized ring size across the board. In fact, depending on the commission and the venue, you could be fighting in anything from a 16-foot ring to a 24-footer. That's a huge difference. Smaller rings benefit pressure fighters, they force more engagement. Bigger rings? They favor slick movers and evasive styles. Most high-profile fights these days? They're happening in rings 20 feet and up. That gives fighters plenty of space to coast and move. Canelo, for example, fights in 20-foot rings almost exclusively. So why not do something simple? Stop allowing the biggest rings possible in high-stakes fights. Push for 18-foot rings as the standard. It's still big enough to allow for skill and movement, but it cuts down on the amount of running room. It's subtle, it's already within the rules. It doesn't require any radical changes, and most importantly, it doesn't hand refs another ambiguous tool to mess with fights. So yeah, this weekend was rough. And if you're feeling frustrated, I get it. But changing the fabric of boxing with a rule that no one can properly enforce? That's not the answer. Make the changes that actually matter, like the ring size, and keep the sport's identity intact. Now, I want to hear from you. Do you agree with Showbiz and his proposed rule? Do you think I'm onto something with the ring size adjustment? Or do you have a totally different take on how to fix these boring fights? Drop it all in the comments below. Oh, and while you're at it, go check out Showbiz's original video and throw him a sub. Whether you agree with him or not, conversations like this are what keep the sport alive. Catch you in the next one.